How's it going? My name is Cameron, also known as Venus Theory, and in this video, I wanted to walk you guys through how I made a big cinematic track using SynthMaster One. SynthMaster One is a massively powerful synthesizer that has tons of different wavetables and waveforms, filter types, and built-in effects so you can create big, epic sounds right inside the synth without having to do much external processing. So let's dive in and break down the track. Alright, so here we are with the song open, and I figured I would just play the main section here so we can hear everything going on at the same time, and then we're just going to break it down one track at a time, and I'll show you how it was made. So let's go ahead and take a listen to the main section of the track now. So it's this really big cinematic sci-fi spacey thing, and it's got these really big, pounding drums and stuff, and these really big, huge pads that, morph and change over time, and there's a whole lot going on, which is why I really like the sounds I got out of SynthMaster for this. So first up is the main pad, and this is what I started this whole track with, because I think when you're doing cinematic type stuff, it's really important to first establish the mood and then kind of build off that tone and the atmosphere that you create using the pad. So let's take a look at the main one. So the main pad here is this preset. This is Pad Glass Illusions, which is a great way to start this track off, I think. I wanted this kind of cold digital space vibe, and this was the perfect patch for that. So let's take a listen. So I think that really set the mood and the tone really well. And then from there, I kind of wanted that big digital 80s reverb. So I grabbed Tal Reverb 4, which is just one of those huge 80s rack style reverbs. And that really brought this sound to life and gave it a huge epic space to sit in. Next up, I needed the main sound that's going to kind of go through the whole track and tie everything together more or less. So I designed a new sound here, and this is it. So it's really actually pretty simple. It's just a sine wave here, and then I have another sine doing FM. This is up 2 octaves and 5 semitones, and it creates this nice kind of glassy digital FM sound. From there, I just added a little bit of the internal reverb, and SynthMaster has one of my favorite internal reverbs of a synth. So just threw that on here and then didn't really touch anything else. To process this, I added a filter which is being automated to open at the beginning of the track and close off at the end of the track. After that, I added a little bit of reverb. This is Oral River, which is a really, really great reverb, and this just, again, gives it that big, epic space to sit in. So with just that little bit of external processing, I got this really big FM sound that I think sits really well with the mix. So I went with that classic kind of quarter note motif of just a single note, but I knew that, the chords and stuff were going to change around it, which should give it this nice, interesting, stable but unstable feel over time. From there, I knew I was going to want those big cinematic brass sounds, so I dug through and found a couple presets to layer together. The first one here is Brass Cinematic Synth Horns, and this one sounds like this. So this is a bit more of a low-pass, darker horn sound, but it kind of sat well, and I knew I could add another layer to kind of make it a bit bigger and wider. For the second layer here, I've got Bass Foundation, and this, combined with the other one, makes for a really big, epic cinematic hit. And then from there, I just added a little bit of reverb onto both of these here with another Tal reverb just to give it that classic 80s rack unit reverb sound, and made this huge, spacious, but low, rumbling, growly brass sound that really just makes this epic feel come to life. From there, I wanted to start establishing the theme of the song using a piano or digital bell sound. I wasn't really sure. So I dug around a bit and I found this. This is key, scene, piano, and it sounds like this. So it's this interesting, sort of organic, but sort of digital sound that really complemented the whole vibe of everything. Because I've already got these kind of cold digital pads, this FM bell, but these big, warm, analog brass type hits. So this was kind of tying everything together. And then from here, I just needed to layer some pads under it to give it that, digital but organic vibe. So next up is one of my favorite pads. This is the Pad Jupiter pad. Now, I love the Jupiter and Juno synths, so I try to work those into just about every scoring project that I do. Not really any reason behind it other than I just love that sound. So SynthMaster does a great job at emulating those classic analog synth vibes, So I threw that in and just copied the MIDI from the first pad, and this is what this one sounds like. So it adds that nice retro synth wavy type vibe, but it also has that nice warm organic feel, but it's this big wide pad that just fills out a bunch of space. On that one, I have another big old reverb here because reverb is really important to give it that big, larger than life feel. So there's going to be reverb on just about everything. Next up, I needed a couple more pad layers just for once the drums kick in, just to give it that really big, this is the climax of the song type of feel. So I grabbed Venus Theory Pad 3. This is one of the presets I made for the factory library. And this is just a nice organic pad that has a lot of subtle shifting and movement over time thanks to the wavetable. So let's go ahead and take a listen to that layer. So it has that warm organic feel, but also really helps to enhance that cold digital vibe because it's got a lot of modulation and movement going on. On that guy, there's another tal reverb once again, and these are just big, huge reverbs, and that just once again is to enhance the big, epic feeling of everything. So below that, I wanted one more pad layer to fill out some of that kind of low mid energy, but also bring in some sparkle and high end to the whole thing just to give it a bit more energy in the climax of the song. So I've got Venus Theory Pad 4 here, which is another preset that I've made, and this is based on phase modulation. So I have the phase mod going on here from the sub. This is one of the wavetables, the grown one, which is kind of an interesting sine, but almost saw. Then just a couple effects here, a little bit of distortion, reverb, delay, and a phaser. Filters are going on here, a little bit of movement coming from the LFOs, which we can see down here in the mod matrix. So this is mostly just kind of a classic pad sound with a lot of modulation. Let's go ahead and take a listen to how that one sounds. So a really great pad that I think filled out this song really nicely. And then on that, just one more reverb to make it big and huge. So in the climax of the track, I knew I wanted some kind of big, screaming, aggressive lead sound, and I found the perfect sound here. So this is Endless Time, and this is a synced saw sound. And what's cool is the mod wheel controls the phase distortion, or the syncing in this case. So you can see as I played this, I just moved my mod wheel a bit over time, and it added this nice kind of timbral variation to the sound and opened it up and closed it and just helped to provide a bit of movement, but also accentuate kind of the flow of the chords in the track. So let's take a listen to how that sounds. So that one really suited the part, and it was really bright and aggressive and sat just right above the mix in the perfect way. So from there, I had the track completed, I had the arrangement pretty fleshed out, and it was just time to add some effects and ear candy, and then just, some rhythmic stuff with the drums and percussive elements. So to kick things off, I started with this, which is DL Machine Hat, and it's a really cool little patch. It sounds like this. So this was a great way to add that kind of sci-fi spooky vibe, but it also provides a really nice rhythmic pacing that kind of gives it this added tension that, builds up into the main section where the big drums come in. So from there, for just a bit more sonic interest on the downbeat of every other bar, I added this guy. This is Cinematic Dynamo, which is a really great sounding preset. It sounds like this. So it just adds some kind of cool synthy movement weirdness that kind of helps drive forward the movement of the chords. When the chord changes, you have this really weird rhythmic hit, but it's also tonal, but it's also not really part of the main synth sound. So it just adds a bit of variation and movement to the track overall. So from there, it was about adding the main drums, and I'll just walk you through those really quickly because there's not all that much to talk about. For the main drums, this is just some samples of me hitting a dumpster. I threw those into some saturation, a little bit of compression, and then a touch of reverb. So that created the big cinematic, angry drums that you hear in just about every cinematic track. Below that, I created a quick rhythmic loop of me hitting some pipes in an alleyway and just bounced that out. And that just created a nice kind of steady rhythmic pattern to go over the top of everything. Below that, I've got 2 loops here. These are some kind of tribal drums, and I just used a bit of EQ to cut out all the low end and mostly accentuate the stick hits and the top end and compress those. And then finally, just a quick cinematic impact, which I've reversed a bit of and cut off the transient to provide the swell, and then the full impact to release it, so the drums all together sound like this. Which I think was really, really cool. And then once everything was all put together, I ended up with the final product, which is this. So that is a quick cinematic track made with SynthMaster One. I think the synth sounds really bring this sound to life, and SynthMaster has a really great way of combining those cold, digital synthy vibes with more warm, organic tones. And you could definitely take this kind of idea and run with it to blend in some orchestral instruments or whatever, and really bring your productions to life. And that's it. So thanks for watching, guys, and to pick up SynthMaster One for yourself or find more information, you can go to kv331audio.com.